3 ways that salon hiring has changed in 2025 and how you can change with it. Hi, I am Kayla Swanson, and I am your host of High Performance Salon Academy's Profitable Salon podcast. And today I get the pleasure of having the founder of High Performance Salon Academy on with me. What's up, Jason? How are you?
What's up, Kayla? This is like the subject of subjects. I get asked this question every time in all groups all the time. What are we doing to hire? What are we doing to hire? How can you help hire? Because a lot of people are losing staff. They're trying to figure it out. And I think there's some misnomers out there that are causing staff to leave for, not great reasons. And then there's some ways you can win some staff back in some awesome ways. I'd love to share with you today on the podcast, like, what are the 2025 changes that are letting people show up inside your salon? So,
because things are constantly evolving. I mean, I go back to some episodes we had beginning, and we've had like different things come up, but it really is constantly evolving in what's offered, what people are wanting, and who's coming out of the beauty schools and who's in the industry and things like that. So I'm stoked to have this conversation with you and talk about 3 specific ways on how things have changed in the hiring space.
Yeah, like if you were still hiring on Craigslist. Like that's old school. That's not what we're doing. We're not putting ads up on Marketplace, Job Finder, like what's the thing? And there are so many different recruitment tools that are available out there. And what I would say is one of the big things that we talk about inside the Academy is like some of our Academy members are just brilliant people, by the way. And they have said like they have an entire Instagram recruitment page. It's just for careers. So it'd be like, Jason Salon, /careers, or just Jason Salon Careers, and it's a separate Instagram that's just for recruitment. And if you don't have something like that sounds crazy. It used to be, if you don't have an Instagram, like you have a website, but then you don't have Instagram. Now it's like, well, not only do you have an Instagram, but then you have a hiring Instagram because they want to check out your salon's page and then the hiring page. That's for a larger salon, obviously. If you're just a smaller shop, maybe that's not what you're doing yet. But I think number 1 on the list is I believe that due to 2020 and all these other things, people are now interested in what I would consider flexible rewards with their employment. Starbucks used to be kind of the gold standard on this one of like, hey, I work at Starbucks not because they pay well, but because they have benefits, right? That's the benefits job is like, I just work at Starbucks because they have great benefits. There are a lot of team-based, employee-based salons, commission-based salons that are saying, hey, we're going to provide you, like, I'm not going to pay an exorbitant commission, but I'm going to provide you with a 401k. I'm going to provide you with benefits like health insurance. I'm going to provide you with dental. I'm going to provide you with massive amounts of vacation time. And they're creating the lifestyle for the salon staff and stylists that want to work there. And they're saying, yes, maybe it's money. Maybe it's the time and flexibility. Maybe it's the amount of education I provide. Maybe it's the lifestyle or the bennies. Show me the bennies, right? Is they're like, hey, what are the other benefits I can get from working at this job? And so I think that probably is the first piece I would start you with is, when you're recruiting, yes, people want to have a good culture. Yes, people want to work at a place that's exciting and they can grow within, but they also want to know like, what's the benefits? And even as our company, what we're learning is we're growing as a company, and we've been a pretty large company for a while, but like, the benefits piece of what we do is a big deal. And it's harder and harder to offer. It's harder and harder for salons to create benefits programs. So we're actually working on some benefit programs right now inside the Academy. I think it'd be good for salons, and just giving them the opportunity to have those flexible rewards. It's not just about money anymore. There's so many different ways to entice people to work for you. And it's not just culture either. It's like, it used to be money and culture. And that there's way more now. 2025, people are looking for more than just money and culture.
There's so many different salons around people's areas. Like there's multiple places to work. Having one that stands out, it's like, what's going to contribute to my life outside of work? And I think we're definitely a culture of like, we, want to work as least as possible and make the most amount. And so you're looking for ways that like, how do I get the most amount of benefits from wherever I'm at? So I don't have to think one less thing to think about, especially becoming an adult. And like people coming out of beauty school, they're fresh in their 20s and they're like, well, I want to set myself up for success. And some of us have had families who weren't successful. So we're looking for that more oomph and things like that. And so being mindful of the generation that's coming out, coming out to get jobs nowadays are looking for that extra. Yeah.
And I think, there's kind of this thought that like, well, all the people graduating, full time is 30 hours a week for stylists are graduating. What I would say is, while that may be true for some, it's not true for all. There's some people like, you said that like everyone wants to be paid the most for working the least. Yes. And here's my and. There are people that want to be paid the most for doing the most and being well rewarded for what they put into their jobs. And I think that's a really interesting piece too, right? Is like, if we just believe that everybody just wants to work 20 hours and nobody wants a full-time job, that's not true. There's businesses all over the country that have, overtime employees that are making lots of money. Like I was talking to this guy who's a Pacific Gas and Electric, like line repairman. And he was like, oh no, I worked overtime all the time. He's like, he's providing for his family. And I know lots of women who provide for their family, and they're like, I'll do whatever it takes to make the most amount of money to drive the rewards. And so it's not, if you put your whole plan into, oh, I'm just going to let people work the least amount and only reward them so much. I just think there's so many different opportunities. There are people that want to work more full time, like 40 hours a week. They're willing to do that and get ahead and be able to grow their career, provided they know that the money is there. And then, of course, there's people who are like, I don't want to work that much. And you got to decide, which salon do you have? Do you have a salon that like full time is 20 hours or full time is 40 hours? And then look for those people, go after those people and find the fit for your salon.
Yeah. Knowing who you're looking to hire. I mean, even having like different options, like some of the salons in our academy, like they have like different, when they hire people on, they have different options of like, hey, this is what works for my salon. But again, it goes back to, here's my 3 options that works within what's available and what's workable.
Yeah, totally. Here's
and knowing what works for you.
Totally. And what part of the company are you going to represent? I think that's number one. Be
whether you're trying to make a lot of money, work less, like people do, they want something that fits into their lifestyle as they're being hired. And that's attractive, knowing that like, hey, you have intentionality of why you're hiring me, knowing that you get a benefit in it too, rather than just going to work for a job.
Right. I think the deal is they want flexibility and they want some customization, right? Yes. And if they can get that, then we're good to go.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah. I like that customization.
Yeah. And I think there's, number 2 here. Number 2 is all about hiring established stylists. There's a school of thought that says like, hey, that person's got a lot of baggage over that salon. You only want fresh out of beauty school. You only want the newbie that's not been broken yet. I'm gonna train them while they're green. I'm gonna get that level 1 stylist, and like they're not gonna know any better. They're gonna come in my salon, and I'll train them up from scratch. And while I think that that's good, and that, by the way, it doesn't mean you can't hire fresh talent out of beauty school. And I've been, you can go back and listen to podcasts from like, hey, only hire out of beauty school. You can hear me talk about that because that's what was really a big deal years ago. But I've been having some interesting conversations lately. And again, I talk about this, Kayla, we haven't talked about the podcast before, but we were talking about it. And like a lot of people, and I'm kind of on a horse about this, so giddy up. I want the anyway, I was gonna make an old person reference. I'm not gonna do it.
Nice. Good catch.
I know. Good catch, old man. Anyway, you probably noticed that there's a lot of salon coaches that have been showing up lately. Like I've just said, like the amount of people who now claim to be a salon coach is insane to me. I see every day, I see somebody like, I made it work in my salon. I can make it work for yours too. And they have this like spiel and they have a course and they have this program. And I have people literally call us and they're like, hey, I bought this course from some other dude or some other gal or some other whatever. And like, they ran a successful salon and I took their program and it didn't work for me. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Well, why'd you come to us? And they're like, well, you guys work with all types of salons. And what happens very often is whoever was successful in that one salon, they just preach only what they know that made them successful. And they're like, copy my recipe. But guess what? Your recipe doesn't work in that state, in that city with your own unique thing. And like what we do at the Academy is we've literally been battle testing against hundreds of salons and using some of the best of to create your own custom recipe. So nothing cookie cutter. It makes a lot of sense. The reason why I'm saying that is I think that the trend used to be, that's what I'm saying, after studying hundreds and hundreds of salons and literally working with thousands of salon owners directly, is that it used to be that like, hey, right out of beauty school, that was the way to go. But what's interesting is if you establish a good set of rules and a set of boundaries and the code of honor and all the things we help you establish, you can actually attract seasoned talent to your business.
Dang.
Interesting. So seasoned talent, what does that mean? That means people who already have a client base, people who are maybe unhappy with where they are and where they're working. So I want to talk about this because people immediately are like, did Jason just say I could poach from other salons? Is that what Jason just said? And I'm going to say, not exactly. That's not exactly what I said. I'm not a proponent of poaching. Don't call other salons and say I'm stealing your staff or hey, Kayla, come to work for me instead of that crap hole salon that you work at.
Don't be that person.
We're not doing that.
No.
But there is something called selling through. Is if I called you and I said, hey, Kayla, I know you're totally happy with where you are. I'd love to know if you know of any stylists that are unhappy within their position or with their job. You probably know some other stylists in town. We've been helping stylists earn their first $100,000 and $200,000 a year. And if you know people that are not earning $100,000 or $200,000 a year, can you refer them to me? I would love just to have an introduction. It would be super grateful. And I just want to make sure you and I know each other. That's called selling through. Now, if you're not earning $100,000 a year, Kayla, what are you immediately thinking?
Being like, I want to be one of those people.
You're like,
what about me?
I'm only making like 60 grand a year. I'm only making 80 grand a year. You're like, I'm interested in that. So I'm selling through, I'm not selling to. And again, imagine doing that in a very polite, cool way. And again, just saying, hey, who do you know? I'm not calling you to get you. If I get you, great, because sure, but I'm not trying to get you. And it's got to really be, I'm not here to sell you. Just if you know somebody, I'd love to be introduced to them. And by the way, I hope they're happy and they hope that they're doing what they should be doing and support that narrative and just say, I'd love if you know anybody else that's not happy at another salon, you'd refer them to me. Great. Now, all of a sudden, you've got an established person who's going and saying, hey, my friend, Michelle over here who works at XYZ salon, she's been complaining to me every week that she doesn't like the salon she's at. Let me give it over to, I don't know, whatever, to Sarah over here. And I'll introduce Sarah or to Jason or to whoever that is and say, I can make the introduction and be like, hey, you said you weren't making 100K. These guys are doing 100K. Now, that's one way to do it is straight up call them. That's one way to do it. You can do that in a DM and an Instagram or something like that too. The other way is start celebrating your stylists. We literally give away award for $100,000 stylists and $150,000 year stylists and $200,000 stylists. And when you've earned that revenue and you start talking on your social media, on your Instagram hiring page, they're like, hey, we have 5 stylists this year that hit $100,000 on their W-2 take-home earning. And that's on a private page. You have to tag the people in it. It's just a page for the, come work at our salon and it's valuable. Or make it a private page so you don't share that stuff publicly. And then once they follow, you can decide if you want to let that person look because they're a stylist for another salon or whatever you want to do. And the idea really is that you have the opportunity to get an established team member from somewhere else that you can potentially work with. And again, it is on that borderline. It's a gray area strategy. I think there's some people who might even be mad at me for even mentioning that strategy. But I would just say, look, I don't want staff members to work for you if they're unhappy. Right. And I definitely don't want them to work somewhere else if they're unhappy. And if you're a better culture fit, great. If you're just calling to like give them some giant money temptation and you don't really have a culture, then that's BS too.
No.
I'm saying let's establish a culture, let's get them results, and then let's get them.
Ready to transform your business and improve your salon's profitability? With Lonza's 3-in-1 technology and intermixable shades, your hair color inventory is streamlined with limitless creativity behind the chair. Click the link below to unveil the secret to salon success.
Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. Use promo code HPSA for your first 2 months free. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
We're Forest, born on the salon floor and built for and by hair and beauty professionals like you. Forest is your marketing, your reporting, your reputation management. You need one easy-to-use system that does it all. Forest. Together, we grow.
Are you tired of not knowing what your hair color is costing you? With Salon Scale, we take the guesswork out for you, so you can cover your back bar expenses, reduce your color waste, and generate more profit in your salon. Click the link in the description to get 10% off your first year.
There. I think that's real.
Because your same advice to the person who already has this, to the owner that has that stylist right now, is like, be the salon that nobody would want to leave your salon in the first place. So no matter what is out there, you're the salon helping your stylist make the $100,000.
If you're losing somebody because they're not making 100K, either you're the wrong leader for them, right? Or either you're the wrong leader for them or they're the wrong follower for you. Either way, you deserve to fix that problem.
Yeah. But as a strategy of in terms of like, yes, be that salon that keeps your people because you're taking care of them, be intentional with them, and be the salon owner that if you put that out there, if you said sell through, not to.
Yeah, sell through, meaning I'm calling you to sell through you, not sell to you. If I'm calling to talk to you, I'm saying, hey, Kayla, do you want to come over and work for me? Versus if I call you and say, who do you know? Who do you know is I'm selling through you. Instead of to you. That
makes complete sense. And then just putting it out there, be like, hey, we're hiring, and I know you have a job, so I'm not talking to you. But if you know anybody who are, it's an easier conversation to have, because that's for me picking up that phone call. I can receive it rather than feeling gross that I'm being poached about.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
and then you know about it.
Yeah, I just think it's the classy way to do it. It's the classy way to handle that and just see what's going on. And if that person is interested, then great. But and by the way, I try to be very respectful about that. Is like, in our academy, we've had that happen before. And they're like, hey, I called the owner because, a stylist calls the other owner and they're like, hey, just so or the stylist calls another owner. That owner's in our academy. And they're like, hey, I'm going to call that other owner and say, hey, how's this person doing on your team? Like, I'm just checking in with you and like having a good relationship. I think there's some level of that, of saying like, who do you want to have relationships with in your local market, and how do you want to play, and how do you want to be seen, instead of poaching somebody's other stuff. I just think it's just something to consider of how you want to be seen in the marketplace. And if you're doing it with kindness, I would always defend that conversation. If somebody called me up and said, how dare you call my people, I'd say, well, I called them because I just thought they might know somebody that would be a good fit. And like, well, they just told me they want to quit and come to work for you. I'm like, well, okay, then help me understand. Like, if they were even open to that, I literally did not call and say, come work for me. They just had an interest in something that we had said. So that's my quick thought on it. You can judge that or argue with me, whatever you want, but I think it's valid.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you have like, you're trying to find the people, and again,
I'm just trying to find the people who should work for me. I'm not trying to, steal. I want to find the people who are supposed to be here.
Yeah, exactly. That you want to continue. And if you are being intentional and pouring into the people who are working for you and creating a place that is what you say it's going to be, like, hey, I'm going to help you make $100,000. Who wouldn't want that? If somebody's been working at a place for 3 years and they haven't yet hit $100,000, they might be like, well, I'm going to need to shift because that is a better opportunity for me, furthering the life of the people that you're trying to work for you. Nice.
Yeah. And that kind of takes me to point 3, if you're okay, but I just roll it. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So if I just roll a point 3 here, and this one is probably, I don't know, going to start some fights in the comments section.
Nice. Yeah. We're ready. Get your punching gloves on.
Is that okay? So fights in the comments is this. I think it's time to start hiring back booth renters.
Well, that's a good tagline. Hire back booth renters. Hire back your booth renters.
I don't necessarily mean like the ones that left you in a steaming uproar of like, fuck you, no, fuck you, or whatever. I'm sure you have to bleep that. Sorry.
I know.
Like, I was like, oops, sorry.
I know. I have to write it down to remember.
Dangerous. Anyway, but my point is that, you don't want to hire back the people who left in a traumatic way. Okay. No. So if that's clear. Gross. And you may not even want to hire back any of the people that left your organization.
True.
However, right now, go back to, if you have a track record of established stylists who are earning 6 figures, and if not, like, let's fix that problem first and then get you to do it.
True.
Right. Let's get your staff up to 6 figures before you go out and try and get other ones. You're like, I'll help you make 6 figures. Everyone on my team makes 50. Not so good. Or if you're the only one who's ever made 6 figures, not the same. Okay.
Not the same.
But what I would say is there is an entire, it might even be, a large percent of your local market that is open. Like, I just saw a post, this poor girl, man, she was a booth renter. There's a picture of her in front of her suite waving. And she's like, I've been really struggling running my salon, and salon as in her suite, right? Been really struggling running my salon to get off the ground. I'm hoping somebody will mentor me so I can, get established and figure this stuff out. And she's struggling. And she's like, somebody please mentor me. And I'm like, oh, that's why you would go and work inside of an awesome commission salon like that. You want a mentor, you want somebody to guide you and coach you and tutor you and help you be successful. Like, go somewhere where other people are successful and learn from them. And literally. So, I'm like, that's what you do, man. Like, the rest of the booth renters aren't going to model the behavior for you. They're too busy working behind the chair, right? And if they're not working behind the chair, they're doing all their paperwork and they're answering calls. They're doing all the other work, right? So here's what I would say. And this is, I heard some of our salons are starting to do this, is they're calling booth renters, doing the exact same thing I just said to you. Hey, I know you've probably got a really great book of business and all these things that you're doing. I hope you don't mind. I just want to ask you, like, how much money did you earn last year? And I know that's a crazy thing to just DM somebody out of the blue with. So, like, be friendly first. But what I'm saying is, like,
ask them about the day.
Be nice. But like, hey, like, I wanted to talk with you. I've got some questions and I have something that might be interesting for you. And they're like, what is that? And you're like, well, I've been working with my salon. I've had it for the last 10 years. And I help a lot of people become 6-figure stylists. Can I ask you a decently serious question and say, did you take home 6 figures after all of your expenses last year? And by the way, really important to ask it that way. Did you take home 6 figures after all your expenses? Because let's say they're working on their own and they made $100,000 gross, but they only netted $50,000 after all their expenses. And that's very common, right? After all their expenses and taxes and fees and everything else they did. So a lot of times what we see is there's a lot of renters that are out there that are only making 60, 70 grand a year because they're in a weird traffic location. Suites don't get random traffic through the door. And so if they're not running Instagram ads, they don't know how to market and they don't have a good word of mouth referral program and all that other stuff, they're struggling. So there's a lot of suite renters that are about ready to exit the industry. Like, if I could just tell you, who are the people that are struggling to pay rent inside a suite? Can I call all of them? Right. Literally. And then just go, hey, what's going on? Because, like, you've got a skill I've got a ton of customers. Can we merge those things together and call it a business? Right? You've got a talent. I've got a talent. My talent is running businesses and attracting great clients and attracting great staff. You've got a talent of delivering a great product of, cut, color, extensions, whatever it is. Let's marry those two things together and have a business baby. Right? Like that's what we're going to look at. And so now all of a sudden you can hire back these booth renters, what I think is a big concept that's being discussed right now inside the Academy very, very heavily, is if we can start hiring back booth renters. Now, all of a sudden, those people who left the industry are coming back in the industry and going into the right salons. And now they're going from making 50, 60 grand a year. Now they're making 100 take home, like W-2 earned wages, like W-2, right? So,
not pay their own taxes. I mean,
right. And they just have like way more time. So remember at the beginning of the call, we talked about all that flexibility. Like, so hear me on this, internet. You're telling me that people value lifestyle and they value less work and they value, only having to work a certain number of hours. And they value a false sense of that, which is going out to be a booth renter. Because booth renting is way more work than ever working inside a regular commission salon. It's always way more. And so if it's way more work, do they really value the lifestyle and the time and all that stuff? Or do they value feeling like they're in charge of something? Do they value that they have some flexibility and control, going back to the point one? So if you can go back to that booth renter who wanted to have some level of control because they didn't feel like they had any. Well, what if you establish your salon as I'm going to give you that flexibility, that control, I'm going to give you that and like be able to also give you the income. So I'll give you the income and the flexibility, and we're going to like 2 for 1 here. Now all of a sudden you've got a really interesting business model that brings people back into the fold of commission salons to partner together to create an amazing business. And you take off the number of hours they spend booking their own appointments and, taking care of their own laundry and running to the store to go buy supplies and doing all that stuff. You're like, hey, thought you just wanted to cut hair, man, and you're good at that. Why don't I give you the space to do so? Yeah, and I think that third point. So, recapping all this, right? So flexibility of rewards, and we kind of came back to that. Flexibility of rewards. Number 2 is finding established stylists you can sell through, not sell to, and finding booth renters to get them back into your business. And maybe they were, they left another salon that had poor leadership. They booth rented for a while, and now they're ready to come back on the scene in your salon because it's better. There's different ways to get them. And I think, to be honest, even though I think that those things I said today, Kayla, are controversial, I think that's what we're looking at in 2025 is doing things that are a little controversial, that do make it a little bit uncomfortable because, for a lot of business, a lot of salons last year, 2024 was a hard year. Yeah, and so literally. If you can figure out, and by the way, good news, it was a hard year for you and a hard year for renters. Right. So if you're like, hey, I'd like to help do this together, you can either do it on your own and keep trying on your own or do it with a team of people who are trying to figure it out. I always think a competent team will always outperform the results of an individual. And it allows you to go out there and recruit in a very different way, use that private Instagram page, use some other tools and establish the means necessary to recruit in a totally different economy. That's my
and since we favor, and thank you for all of that, and we favor love punches, it's like before doing those things, if you're struggling to hire, become the salon that can stand behind the way, like what we just talked about today, going to people and offering those things. Make sure you're a salon that can actually stand behind it. Don't give false information and trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm working towards this. This is what I want to do. Make sure you've established that and know that it's effective and you're taking care of the team that you have before you take those things and take them to other people and be like, hey, this is what I'm offering. I can help you make $100,000 as a take home as a stylist. Well, do you have $100,000 take home stylist currently? Right. Yeah. And making sure that is not just you have one that happens to be making that, but you have set in place ways in which to help your stylist get there. And that is something that's a part of it. So if you want to have better results in your hiring this next year, be more intentional with what you're doing with your team and how you're providing for them and making your hiring process something that people want to be a part of. How are you competing with the salon down the street? Are you just being like, you get flexible hours, pick your own hours or whatever it is? It's got to be a little bit more above that and making sure you're being intentional with what you're offering. So the exchange and the feeling there, and you are supporting the careers and the lives of the people who are coming to work from you, whether they're fresh out of school, established booth renters, wherever they're coming from. You want to make sure you have established that before bringing them in. Yeah. I think the most effective, if you want to write this as a, last note here, the most effective recruitment tool that you have is your successful stylists. Right? Like that's it. Like if they have an award, they're making lots of money. They're either going to talk about it and tell all their friends about it. They're a shining example for you to show other people. Like if you help other people be successful,
more people will show up to be trained into being successful.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It'll live and breathe. Somebody will come into your salon and be like, wow, there's an energy here because people are happy and thriving. I can speak to that of knowing being around other people when you work with people who are all focusing on building their career and becoming successful people, not just in money and things like that, but as a person and that personal development too. It's a huge part of our thing that we do. Yeah. But you can feel the difference when people come into your salon, they'll be like, wow, something's different here. And that difference is the intentionality.
You got it.
Man. What a great podcast. Thank you so much, Jason, for hanging out with us today. If you got value out of this or have more questions or want more support or wanting to know how the salons, the owners in our academy are having these conversations about looking into booth renters, I'll put our number in the description. Don't do it now if you're driving. Wait till you're not, but it'll be in the description. Text us anytime. We would love to be able to support you in that, get you plugged into our community. And as always, thank you for joining us on the Profitable Salon podcast. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks.
See you next time.
You've been listening to the Profitable Salon Owner Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review, and check us out at profitablesalon.com for more episodes, content, and to help you turn your salon into the business you've always dreamt of.